Hola, hola. Pues bienvenidos, bienvenidas un sábado más a este su podcast, a Valentina. Y hoy de manera especial estoy súper contenta porque tenemos de invitado a una super personalidad. Ya saben que Boro tiene 7, 8 años de Neora, son 7, 8 años, ¿verdad?
Sí, a 7 años y medio.
Y yo tengo 5 y son pues tiempo suficiente para darnos cuenta de quiénes son las personas que tenemos cerca. Y al decir cerca, se me llena la boca de emoción porque no en todas las compañías puedes darte el lujo de tener la cercanía que nosotros tenemos con grandes líderes. Damon Rourke es el esposo de Amber Olson, hija de Jeff Olson, CEO de la empresa Amber, presidenta y cofundadora de Neora, y hoy nos regala este personaje un ratito de su tiempo. Y me encanta porque nos va a decir cómo llegó a Neora, qué hacía antes de entrar a Neora, cómo puede equilibrar esa vida integral como, pues, como parte importante de la empresa, como padre de familia, tiene 3 niñas hermosísimas, es un gran esposo y qué bueno que hoy se dé el tiempo para platicarnos sobre este tema. Para nosotros, bueno, para mí en lo personal, ahorita Boro va a dar su opinión, para mí en lo personal me llena de alegría y me llena de orgullo, porque pues todos sabemos que la gente, mientras más importante es, menos tiempo tiene para muchas cosas. Y él es tan importante que se da cuenta de que la importancia abarca a compartir su historia, abarca a echarnos porras, a hacernos fuerte en este podcast que ahí va ya temporada 2, episodio 14. ¿Estoy en lo correcto? 13,
14.
ya, ahora sí, 14. Ve, qué bueno, ¿ves? Qué bueno que alguien tiene bien apuntado lo que llevamos. Pero vaya, son muchos. Y bueno, Borito, dime, cuéntame algo.
Ay, pues bienvenidos a todos. Hola, Yuk, buenos días. Yo estoy feliz también. Estoy feliz porque definitivamente el podcast, que empezó como una idea divagando, y creo que así se crean las mejores ideas, y tomar acción para hacerlas, definitivamente me ha cambiado mucho, muchas maneras de pensar o de conceptualizar todo, las relaciones, ¿no? Porque a veces me decían, es que abrir un tema de conversación con alguien no es hacer una red o una gran conexión, pero es el inicio de abrir una puerta para hacer muchas más. Cuando yo entré en Neora hace 7 años y medio, primero conocí la compañía por mi amigo y pues al final y al principio siempre ha sido un gran mentor. Y de esa plática que inicié con él se abrieron muchas más. Y entre una de esas pláticas pues es la relación que tenemos tan cercana con Damon. Como dice Yuk, no es común que alguien que está en una compañía de ventas directas, no me gusta llamarle mercadeo en red o multiniveles o todo, o sea, todos los otros conceptos, porque realmente lo que hacemos son ventas directas y un negocio formal a través de eso. Y me encanta la forma de explicarlo de Damon ahorita, pero al momento que nosotros empezamos a hacer, pues a platicar y a ser amigos, podemos abrirnos las puertas a muchas cosas. La oportunidad de tener grandes personajes como Damon, como Roberto y como esperemos muchos más que se acerquen, es gracias a esas pequeñas pláticas de un hola, ¿cómo estás? De un genuino interés, con intención, como van a escuchar a Damon, y eso me llena el corazón. Hoy que para él es un día festivo, que está con su familia, con sus hijas, que se dé un tiempo para voltear también con los socios de marca, porque al final, pues también somos una familia, pero nuestra parte de familia es que somos una familia que hace dinero, no solamente que se la pasa bomba. Entonces me encantará que lo escuchen desde quién era Damon, cómo empezó esto, porque estuvo desde el principio. No se pierdan hasta el final, porque el tip del final, y sobre todo si eres mexicano, hispano de cualquier mercado, tienes que escucharlo hasta el final. Están los subtítulos y pues bienvenidos a Valentina, episodio 14, temporada 2.
Buenos días, Valentina. Estamos hoy muy contentas porque tenemos a una persona increíble que nos visita el día de hoy. Hello, Damon. How are you?
Muy bien, you. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien.
Perfecto.
Well, but I'm very happy to see you today, and I truly appreciate your time. You are a special human being, and a great example to follow. Entonces, and then I speak a little and I hear a lot because we have to learn for you about you.
Perfecto.
Okay?
Muchísimas gracias, you. It's un pleasure. Um, Estoy aquí to be here.
Yes.
Thank you, Damon. Gracias, Duke. Well, this is our second season of the podcast, and we are truly amazed of what the impact we have made in the people, about the direct sales in this period of time, and about the growth of Neora. So thank you, like Duke just said, for your time. We are I want you to everyone know you. They hear us every Saturday talking about Neora, talking about you, talking about Amber, talking about Jeff. But this is a special for me because you are like also a great husband, a great businessman, a great leadership with the Hispanic market. And I want you to tell us how you get to Neora, what was Damon before, and what you expect about it.
Yeah. So we launched Neora 14 years ago, and before that, I was in sales. And so I sold staffing, so IT staffing, finding IT people jobs. I sold payroll, so helping companies run payroll, sold to small businesses. And it was always business to business. So I was always selling to a business. I was never really selling to an individual, even though it was the business owner. And then I got into medical sales and it was medical software. And very quickly, I still remember very clearly one quarter, Amber saw my tax return and she said, you made over $40,000 over the last 3 months. And I was like, yeah, that's what I make. That's my commission. That's what I make. Um, and so I was doing really well. Like it was lucrative. I enjoyed the job. I enjoyed selling to doctors and working with doctors. I really liked the company that I was with. But we launched, me and Amber got engaged 6 months before we launched Neora. And then we got married 6 months after we launched Neora. And so we're in the middle of planning our wedding when she's launching. So when we launched Neora, we didn't do any kind of pre-launch. We didn't collect money from people and use that towards building out the IT and building out the websites and building out our systems and stuff like that. We launched, we had full starter kits, we had full product, we had inventory, which is a big difference because you see a lot of companies out there. Bro, are you translate? You're not going to translate me.
No, I will put subtitles all the
Okay,
conversation.
perfect. Good.
Better
Let's
for
see.
us.
Let's see it. Yeah, perfecto. And so, you guys have probably seen it already. Like a lot of companies will pre-launch and they'll say, hey, give us $500 for your kit. You're going to be one of the first distributors to join the company. And then in 6 months or 12 months is when we're going to launch, or 6 months is when we're going to launch. Well, they take that money and then they use that money to fund building out their websites, right? It's really expensive. They fund it to they might have the formulation for their product, but they use it to create their product and create those products, store those products, and get ready to ship them out when they launch. But they're taking people's money without people getting anything back. Well, we didn't want to do that. Jeff and Amber didn't want to launch that way. And so the way we launched was day one, August 29th, 2011, is we launched the company. It was you paid money, you get your starter kit, right? You get your product, you get your everything. Um, and so that was a really big deal when we were launching. But I watched Amber build all this. So my point is that she built all this for a year before, right? So when we were dating, when we were engaged, she built out, they were building this company without ever making a dollar. And so when they were about to launch, I watched my future wife build this company and not make any money, right? They weren't taking any money in. So it was all funded. It was all funded by Amber and Jeff. And so that didn't make sense to me. As a 26-year-old man that was in sales, I spent my time going to doctors, talking to doctors, selling a product, and I got my commissions. I made money, right? The concept of being a business owner, investing in something and not making money for a long time until a year later, that did not make sense to me, right? I couldn't even wrap my head around it. And so when they were launching the company, or right before we launched, I probably tried the product in our original night cream. I probably tried it in July, and then I had no intention. You hear stories about families working together and spouses working together, and it just not working well, right? Like just horror stories, just terrible stories about families and spouses working together. And so I didn't want to be involved with Neora. I didn't want. I knew I was going to use the product. I love my wife. I support my wife. I love and trust my wife. I love and trust Jeff. I love and trust the people that were running the company, but I wasn't going to sell the product. Right. I was in medical sales. Like I was selling to doctors. I wasn't going to go sell a night cream to my friends and family. But then I tried the product, and I had some acne scars on my forehead that came up to the surface, and in the morning I could wash away the dead skin. And that's where I was like, this product is going to be incredible. And so I didn't understand the compensation plan. I didn't need to, right? Again, I love and trust Amber and Jeff. I didn't need to know the compensation plan. I understood the concept of sales, that if I sell something, right? I sell one bottle of Neora, I make money. I understood that concept. That's why I got started, because I thought as a 26-year-old guy, I would use this product. And if I would use this product, not being the core demographic, then this product's going to be huge. And then so I followed the system that Neora has, and very quickly, and my first commission check was $40, and I was excited. I spent $500 to get started. I was like, okay, $40. If that means if I make $40 a month for the next year, I almost have my investment back. Like, this is fantastic. That means in 18 months, I'll be making money, right? I'll be positive gain in making money. And that's why I just followed the system very, very quickly. Within the first year, I started making more money with Neora per hour than I was making in medical sales. And so that's when I decided to go full time, but it started with the product, and then following the system, and then just having the right perspective. I think that's one thing that helped me. I had the right perspective of, I made $40 the first month. If I keep doing this for 14 months, I'm going to make money, right? I'm going to come out on top and be positive in making money. It was only gonna be a little bit of money, but that kept me going. And so, yeah, that's how I got started with Neora. And I went full time within that first year, because I was just honestly, as a young sales guy that freshly married and had a family that we were thinking about starting, Neora was more lucrative than medical sales. And so that's how I found it. That's why I got started. And it's been incredible to watch it over the last 14 years.
Yes, that's the next question, because you are with Neora 14 years ago when they launched it. But you are a great couple. You are like a powerful couple with corporative place, but also in the camp, in the leadership of every one of us, all the brand partners. And also you're in specific with the Hispanic market, because you are so close to us. We are having you here 4th of July, like making this happen, making some of the time you spend with your family too. And how you make this work all these years, being the husband of the president of the company, but being a great leadership with us in Mexico, Colombia, and all around the world, and also a father, and also a couple. When I saw you in Italy or traveling or making some time, it's like how Damon makes time in the week. How you manage your time in these 14 years to have the success you have?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just planning. It's being intentional. I think, it's so easy to get caught up, and for anybody. We have a family business. We have other projects that we like working on outside of the family business. We have 3 kids that are busy with school and sports. Amber and I are very intentional about our relationship, but I work with a lot of people that just like you do. And I think that you just realize everybody's busy, right? I think everybody spends their time how they want to spend it. It's just they have to determine how they want to spend it. Otherwise, they're just going to spend it doing nothing, but they're intentional about it. Like everybody intentionally spends their time. Even if it's unintentional, you're intentionally spending it unintentional. I don't know how that's going to translate, Burrow, but it's we plan. We plan. We take time. Like in October, November, or December. December would be a little late, but we take time to plan the next year. We take time to once a week. Amber and I have a meeting, and we block it off. We keep that meeting on the books, and we talk about what's going on. What's going on for the rest of the week? What's going on next week? What's going on next month? When are we traveling? This is such a great business, especially being a family business, but it's such a great business because in 2 weeks, Amber's taking our middle daughter to California with her to do a tour and do some Neora events. And then I'm taking our oldest daughter up to Oklahoma the next week on a road trip and doing a few events there. And then Amber and I are flying to North Carolina to celebrate. Samantha Wyatt was just married, and we're flying there to celebrate with one of our New York friends celebrating her marriage. And I think it's just planning. Like it's just being intentional about how you're going to spend your time and identifying how you want to spend your time. I always think about how many people spend their time. They spend their time playing video games. They spend their time at the bar drinking. They spend their time. They spend their time. Sorry. They spend their time doing different things that I don't think they really like. Nobody would choose if somebody's looking at their schedule and say, "I'm going to drink at the bar from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m." Right? Nobody really says that. Nobody says, "I'm going to play video games from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m." Right? Nobody intentionally looks at the schedule and says, "That's how I want to spend the most precious thing I have here on the earth is time." Like this God-given time that is very finite, that's going to run out. You're going to die. How do you want to spend your time? Nobody's going to look at that and say, "I want to play video games. I want to fight with my wife. I just want to sit around and do nothing." Like, nobody really says that, but we very uh, intentionally, unintentionally don't focus on our priorities, right? Because I list out priorities of my health, my faith is my number one priority. My relationship with God is my number one priority. My relationship with my health, like my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual health is number two. My relationship with Amber is number three. I'm sorry, my phone keeps vibrating. And so I'm very intentional with what my actual priorities are so that when I do have free time, hopefully consciously or subconsciously, I'm making decisions that serve my priorities and not just serve my inner need to be comfortable, if that makes sense. So I just think it comes down to planning. It comes down to intentionally planning. Recognize that you are busy. Time is the only thing you have, and you want to intentionally plan your life and how you want to spend your time rather than just letting it happen to you.
Thanks. That's a great. Also, every time I hear you, you are so intentional with the words where you are speaking that now that I'm planning the next month or power training or the next move, it's just thinking in my intention to go to end of the day to go to build my business like with more focus.
Yeah.
And also, I were talking with Roberto Canales, the last interview, and talking about the Hispanic market in US. Also in the whole in the world completely, but more in the US.
Yeah.
Because it's a big market, and you are so near to that people with the Hispanic market there. So, what's your expectation with Hispanic market in this industry, but also more specific in Neora?
Yeah. I mean, I love, you guys know, I love the Hispanic market. I love the time that I've been able to spend in Mexico, the time I've been able to spend in Colombia, the time I've been able to spend here in the States with the Hispanic market. First of all, I look at Colombia. I think the one thing I know about Colombia and traveling around the world at this point, there's a lot of Colombians in Colombia. There's also a lot of Colombians in every other country, right? I go to Europe. I meet Colombians. I go to Australia, I meet Colombians. I'm in the States, you go down to Miami, little Bogota is down in Miami. There's a lot of Colombians around the world. And so that allows the opportunity to network. You network with people inside Colombia, and then you find people outside of Colombia, right? And then the same thing with Mexico. You go down when I go to Mexico, it's a little bit not the same thing. It's a little bit different in Mexico because specifically with Neora and the Mexican market, we have like this. There's millions and millions and millions and millions of people in Mexico. And we have this little tiny sliver. And every time I'm in Mexico talking to one person or talking to 100 people, there's always the majority of people I talk to that are prospects have never heard of Neora, right? They've never heard of it. And so there's such an opportunity there. And then you take Mexico and you look at the US. The US Hispanic market is majority made up of Mexicans, right? It's there's neighboring countries. It just makes sense. But there's so many Mexicans in the US, and then there's so many Mexican Americans in the US. There's immigrants that have come from Mexico that had children here, whether they're first generation or second generation. And then we get talking about the US Hispanic market. When this is so interesting to me. So when I go to Colombia, I'm hanging out with Colombians, right? When I go to Mexico, I'm hanging out with Mexicans. Like it's all everybody's Mexican, everybody's Colombian. You go down to Costa Rica, everybody's Costa Rican. The most interesting thing happens in America of, even when we're on our trips, right? When we're on our vacations, we go on our incentive trips. Our next one's in Cabo. Can't wait for that one. When you walk into a room, when I walk into a room, if I don't know anybody there, I'm looking for another American, right? I'm looking for somebody that speaks English but looks American. Mexicans do the same thing. You walk in, you're looking for somebody that's Mexican. You can tell by their dialect, maybe the way they look, where they're from. Colombian, the same thing, right? But the most interesting thing happens in America that I never realized until we really focused on the US Hispanic market. When somebody from Costa Rica comes to Dallas, Texas, when somebody from Mexico comes to Dallas, Texas, when somebody from Colombia comes to Dallas, Texas, when somebody from Argentina comes from Dallas, Texas, they're not looking for another Argentinian. They're not looking for another Costa Rican. They're not looking for another Colombian or Mexican. They're looking for anybody that speaks Spanish, that they can communicate with, right? That they can understand, that they have that relationship. And so, being from the States and not traveling much before, I thought everybody in every Spanish speaking country in every Hispanic market was essentially Mexican, right? It is wild. It's wildly different cultures. Mexico has a different culture than Colombia. Argentina has a different culture than Colombia, right? It's just they're completely different cultures. But when those cultures come to the US, they start to mesh together and they create their own unique US Hispanic culture. And I think it's such a beautiful and interesting thing to witness, to be a part of just this melting pot, because they take some traditions from Mexico, some traditions from Colombia, some from Argentina, and then they take some from the US and they create this own US Hispanic culture. And I think it's one of the coolest things, especially in the US, because the majority, like, nobody really chooses to leave their home without wanting something more, right? They're looking for growth. They're sacrificing all of the friends they've had their entire life, all of the family they have around them, all of the places that they know. They're sacrificing that. They're leaving it behind for opportunity. They're coming to the US for something, right? They're coming looking for something to grow. They want something more. And so when I talk to people in the US Hispanic market, traditionally in Mexico, when I go down to Mexico, we talk about culture. We talk about the products, but we talk a lot about culture. We talk a little bit about opportunity. When I go to Colombia, we talk a lot about some about culture, a lot about products, and then some opportunity. When I talk to the U.S. Hispanic market, it's all opportunity. Like, does the product work? Yes, perfect. Is the culture good? We almost don't care because we're going to create our own culture, right? They're used to creating they came to the U.S. and created their own culture. So culture to them is not a concern. it's the opportunity. You go and you talk about money. They're asking about money. They're asking how to make money. They're asking how to maximize the money. Which is just it to me. It's so interesting to see that, especially from where I started 14 years ago, right? Of what I assumed was the entire
Hola, hola. Ya,
what I
ya.
assumed was the entire Hispanic market, to see that develop and really become this really cool thing, that it's its own in the U.S.
That's great to see you the way you see it, because I was talking just with you and other brand partners, because everyone that speaks with me from the US but is Hispanic, they talk me about money
Yeah,
and how they will make money and how much and how, and just not just money, but they focus on that, and
yeah,
that changed my mind also. It was like, of course, it's not just a business because of the community or because
yeah,
of the trips or because we are all friends. It's because of the money.
yeah. It's
And
really interesting when I go, and I really, this was really clear to me when I go up to Canada. I've been up there a bunch and done presentations twice. Different people have come up to me and they're like, "Hey, great presentation, but it was really American. Like it was really like you're really American." I'm like, "It's Canada, right?" The same thing in my head. I'm like, it's like the US. Just like I assumed Mexico and Colombia were the same, right?
mhm.
I assumed Canada was like the US. And it's just interesting going into these new countries and working with new people. The cultures are just different. The good news is Neora has something for everybody, right? We have great culture. You're going to have a great support system. You're going to be celebrated here. We have products that are absolutely incredible. They do what they say they're going to do. And then our compensation plan is amazing. And then the opportunity, the timing of the opportunity right now with having the filler product, with being on the ground floor of what's going to be the biggest product to ever hit direct sales, the biggest launch that anybody's ever seen in direct sales. We've already proven that we're doing those numbers. We're going to do over 100 million with just this product alone in the first year. It's incredible, but New York has something for everybody.
Yes, that's amazing. Thanks for your time, Duke. You want to ask something more? Otra pregunta más, mi Duke.
No, only say to you, thanks. A big thanks for your time, for your words. I understand more than I speak, and I appreciate your time with us.
Muchísimas gracias. Ya, entiendo más de hablo también.
Eso.
Muy
Ya,
bien.
ya.
Give me
Pero
five.
necesitamos practicar.
Sí,
Yes,
Yeah,
I promise.
yeah.
vamos a practicar todos. Thank you, Damon. This is like new chapter in our lives, making this podcast, interviewing people from that we admire, but also that you inspire us with all the family, the girls, Amber, Jeff. You take some time talking about how was difficult to work with family sometimes, or we have that in mind. But this is not just making the community, is making a family.
Mhm.
And it's great for us to have you here to spend some time with us today, that is 4th of July. And say hello to everyone there. Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me so much. I'm honored to be the second guest. Keep going. Keep doing this podcast. It's 99% of you're better than 99% of podcast if you do 12 episodes. So
Mm.
shoot for that 12 episodes. Take the slight edge in mind. You guys are excellent at asking questions and very open. So very receiving. It feels very warm. So keep going. You guys are going to get better and better and better and better. And I can't wait to see where you guys go.
Thank you, Damon. See you
Thank
in
you.
Guadalajara.
Sí.
See
Bye.
you soon.
Vemos.
Bye bye. Y bueno, ya lo escuchamos, ya aprendimos. La primera parte, el escucharlo, cómo llegó a esta industria, cómo fue que lo atrapó, independientemente de, pues, de con quién estaba, con la hija del CEO, ni más ni menos, ¿verdad? Y con esa cercanía. Y luego hablar de que en la vida tenemos que tener un plan, tenemos que planear sí o sí y mantener ese foco y tomar acción con intención, hacer las cosas intencionalmente para que tengan resultado. Yo creo que eso es una joya que a lo mejor lo oímos y decimos, ay, sí, qué padre. No, no hay que planear, hay que saber a dónde queremos ir y hay que poner esa carretera para cumplir, para tener tiempo para todo, porque eso es parte, somos personas integrales, todos tenemos muchas cosas que hacer, todas tenemos más objetivos que cumplir en todos nuestros ámbitos y teniendo una planeación es cuando uno alcanza el éxito en todos sentidos también. Y bueno, y al final, ¿qué les puedo decir? Boro, te lo dejo a ti. Pero ese apapacho que nos dio no tiene nombre, no tiene precio, más que puritito cariño.
Sí, porque aparte les voy a confesar algo. Yo sí estaba súper nerviosa, o sea, generalmente en mi cabeza me escucho con mejor inglés que luego cuando le pongo play o cuando le tengo que decir las palabras. Y con él, aunque le decía a Yuka, ay, qué tan nerviosa si nos hemos echado nuestros tequilitas. No, pues sí te pone nerviosa, sí te pone nerviosa, sí es como un, y más cuando estás hablando de temas tan importantes que yo sé que a muchos de ustedes les van a servir en algo en su vida. Escucharlo, como dice Damon, como dice Yuk a Damon de su antes, de su durante, el proceso, porque pues él está casado con la presidenta de la compañía, pero también es un gran mentor en el mercado hispano y en el mercado mundial, global de la compañía porque él tuvo ese mérito de hacerlo, no es una persona que llegó y se lo dieron. Él lo construyó y nos enseña a construirlo con un sistema muy simplificado, que a veces queremos rebuscarle, pero está ABC. Entonces, escuchar sus puntos, a mí me quedaron muchas cosas, que primero es su mentalidad y su espiritualidad, su familia, que lo hace con intención. Me va a encantar leer a ustedes qué fue lo que más les quedó. Me encanta cómo habla y cómo sabe el potencial que tiene el mercado hispano, no solamente alrededor del mundo, sino sobre todo en Estados Unidos y también en Estados Unidos, ¿no? O sea, me refiero en Estados Unidos y también en Estados Unidos porque la mayoría de pues hay muchos habitantes hispanos en Estados Unidos, punto, que están dispuestos a tener una mentalidad distinta a la que a lo mejor tenía yo y lo hablo por mí, ¿no? Porque yo antes pues me enfocaba en otras cosas, pero tener contacto con personas que están allá, mexicanas o colombianas o de Dominicana, pero que viven en Nueva York o en otros lugares, me cambia el chip. Porque algo dijo Damon que si no lo han escuchado bien, regrésenle a esa parte donde está hablando del mercado hispano y su mentalidad. Porque definitivamente la intención en lo que tú pongas a tu propósito te va a ayudar a planear y a lograr. Y tanto, o sea, tanto que él pone focus y enfoque en lo que va a hacer, que su cierre, cuando nos dio ese gran apapacho Miyuk, pues yo no sabía que la gente que empieza a hacer esto de vamos a hacer un podcast no llega ni al episodio 12. Yo no sabía eso. Y nosotros nos podemos quedar aquí 3 días platicando.
No, 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 es que, ¿sabes qué es increíble? Es que independientemente, sí tenemos nuestra audiencia, sí hay gente que nos ve, pero ¿sabes? Lo más padre de todo es que esto, igual que todo lo que se hace en la vida, es sembrar, 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 para luego cosechar. Y hay que insistir, hay que persistir y nunca
Desistir, desistir. Y eso es
desistir.
lo que estamos sembrando. Yo creo, yo no vas a dejar mentir. Y me gustaría cerrar con esto porque creo que es algo muy importante que tienen que tomar en cuenta para estos próximos 6 meses del año. Nosotras lo estamos sembrando para nosotras principalmente también. O sea, Yuk no es la misma mujer que fue con el primer episodio, ni yo, ni lo que ha pasado en la vida y en la mentalidad que hemos tenido y las experiencias que han pasado, porque la vida cambia cada segundo hasta con lo que vas a desayunar al rato o con quién vas a pasar tu tiempo al rato. Pero ese sembrar, empiecen por sembrar en ustedes, en su mente, en su espíritu, en ustedes, con una intención de un propósito mayor. Y yo estoy encantada, Yuk, de esta travesía. Pues vamos a ver quién es el capítulo, el episodio 15 porque este 14 estuvo 10 de 10 mi Yuk.
Pues sí, Borito. Y bueno, gracias a quienes nos escucharon hoy. no se van a levantar igual que cuando se sentaron a empezar a oír este capítulo, este episodio. Y bueno, haz de Valentina.
Tu propio espacio. Gracias.
Bye.